Hi, I'm Jeff Hayes. I produced the film you're about to see, Bought. I want to give you some background on what our motivation was in doing this. I'm not a scientist. I didn't even have firm opinions on some of these issues that we cover when we started the film. I've got some pretty firm opinions now, but those are mine. At the end of this film, you're entitled to yours. That's the reason we wanted to make this film. I raised a lot of children. I've got a lot of grandkids. My goal with this film was to make sure that we had a safe place to have conversations on important topics like this, like vaccines and like the food that we eat and GMOs and whether or not we live in the type of country that we have the right to choose. I hope this film stimulates conversation for you, and I hope it stimulates positive conversation in the scientific community. I think we did a good job with it. I hope you like it. Be sure and stay tuned at the end of the film, where we'll give you a link to some resources that can really help further the discussion, and thank you for watching.
So how many weeks are you?
26.
Do you know what you're having?
A girl,
What's her name?
Aria.
The immune system begins during pregnancy.
A mother's instinct is very strong, and we were given that because it helps us protect and nurture our children so they can grow up to survive us.
We all have to take personal responsibility and work to make change. You can't wait for Superman. You can't think someone else is going to do it better than you.
It's very arrogant to say that mothers should not be able to exercise not only their intelligence but their mother's instincts when making healthcare decisions for their children.
We have that love that comes so naturally, that never goes away. And I want a better future for my children. I'm frightened for my children. We need to turn it around.
Consider that we have many fundamental unanswered questions. You have to wonder, what is the urgency? And the only answer to that question is profit. The vaccine industry is a billion-dollar industry. Look at the pharmaceutical industry. And similarly, the patenting of seeds and the sale of pesticides and the commandeering of the food supply, it's taken hold of our entire society, and it's led to enmeshment between our government and industry that's almost inextricable. They're all the same folks, they're all the same people.
All these things have a common thread with things that are going into our body. And the most disturbing aspect of this is the fact that big dollars and big business can buy votes and initiatives within the culture, and leads to a fundamental compromise of our human rights. The consequence of which is that our lives and our well-being is all being bought.
When are people finally going to wake up and state that the emperor has no clothes? We all will be sick. We all will need medical attention. Until people make a stand, nothing's going to change. What's funny is, after being out of the business for so long, I now realize that the docs that were rep friendly and love the reps coming in, I don't know if I'd go see them. I have a new respect for those doctors that didn't want drug reps in their office. You got to think, these guys have 4-year degrees, and it could be in public relations or in media or whatever, but they're not scientists. And they're going out there and they're given these 3-week crash courses in these drugs, and they're told exactly verbatim what to say. And you're persuading doctors to make decisions about patient care. The drug reps do not educate physicians. They do nothing but muck up the works, because that drug company is not satisfied with a drug that sells 900 million. They want it over $1 billion. And it's always about more money.
What was it that first alerted you that there was an issue going on?
The company was selling drugs off-label to children, and the drug was indicated for 18 and above. And so I became a whistleblower before I even knew what a whistleblower was. And that was by asking the wrong question. And the question was, hey, is this legal?
Typically, whistleblowers are thought of as snitches or rats. So there's this mentality that whistleblowers are bad people. But from what we're finding is it's quite the opposite. These are people that are very concerned about a problem or an injustice that they're seeing. They are putting themselves at tremendous risk to try to solve it. They say, hey, am I really hearing what you're asking me to do? Are you really expecting me to do this?
That was the beginning of the end for me. That's where all of a sudden I get demoted. You get labeled a troublemaker and they want to show you the door. I was finally terminated. I had to move back into my parents' house at 42 years old with my son. I couldn't get a job. I couldn't even get an interview. I was being shunned by everyone I grew up with, even by my own family. It was pretty tough, and for several years. And then we started to see some light. There was an announcement of a pending settlement. Then it took about another year. Then the case finally settled.
The Justice Department and our law enforcement partners have reached an historic $3 billion resolution with the pharmaceutical manufacturer GlaxoSmithKline.
GSK's sales force bribed physicians to prescribe GSK products using every imaginable form of high-priced entertainment.
It was an 11-year ordeal.
11 years.
11 years.
Do you think there were unnecessary deaths because these drugs were being prescribed
off-label?
Off-label.
Absolutely. No question in my mind at all.
Study 329 was created by a pharmaceutical company that made the drug Paxil. And the purpose of this study was to show that this drug was an effective and safe drug to treat children and adolescents with depression. The problem is that they found that that was not the case. The study revealed that their emotional stability deteriorated and their suicide ideation and risk tripled. They said, well, these findings are really inconsistent with what we want this study to say. So we're going to omit the parts that are not in favor of this drug being used to treat children. And only the good parts that supported the purpose of this study were chosen to be published. Some of the children that were dropping out because of ideation of suicide, they were labeled as non-compliant, rather than being truly reported as a side effect that would eventually have proven this drug to be a bad choice. These facts that were not accurate and cherry-picked were published in the most respected journal of medicine.
I can't tell you how many times through the years I had an oh my God moment when I realized that there was another layer to this.
You were a whistleblower and took such huge risks. The enormity of what you uncovered and discovered and then reported upon was mind-boggling.
I first encountered the issues that led to my crusade, if you will, when I was working as an investigator, a fraud investigator for the state of Pennsylvania, Office of Inspector General. I discovered that the Johnson & Johnson company was creating a drug protocol that would favor their drug Risperdal to expand the number of uses. The entire marketing process of the drug, from clinical trial through academic reporting, through the FDA and approval process, it was all based on fraudulent or manipulated material. They removed me from lead investigator.
Did they tell you why they removed you?
That I was too focused on the big picture, that I was too focused on
you were too focused on what you were doing.
Yeah. I was told drug companies write checks to both sides of the aisle. Back off. They wanted to maintain a deliberate ignorance of what was going on because their jobs depended on the political people who were being supported by the industry. I remember sit back like this and say, you win. I have 3 generations count on me. You win. I have to have my job. In the back of my mind, I'm thinking, son of a bitch, you're going down. I made my decision at that moment to become a whistleblower.
This is not for the light of heart. You can't think, okay, I'm going to blow the whistle, I'm going to be a multimillionaire. The odds are 95% of you will not get a nickel. You will destroy your career and you'll end up with nothing. You will have the respect of no one. You will be a pariah. You'll be thought of as being crazy. They bury you.
Johnson & Johnson, in total, I think, paid out almost $3 billion. But it was for a drug they made $44 billion on.
Right, so it's the cost of doing business.
Exactly.
I know that you're handling a case that does have to do with a very large drug company.
This is the case that we have brought on behalf of 2 whistleblowers who used to work at Merck. These 2 individuals were scientists who worked in the vaccine research division. They were testing the efficacy of the mumps vaccine. They weren't getting the efficacy for which they were originally given approval. Our clients are saying they found that the vaccine was not working as well as it was originally. Our allegations aren't just about what they've eyewitnessed, but also what they were told by senior executives, that it was important for Merck to maintain that original efficacy, that very high number, so that it can continue to be licensed in the United States to sell the vaccine. Our clients were directed to falsify the data on the testing. If this is all true, like we believe it is, then there's a real issue of transparency that's at issue here. And if one of the major vaccine manufacturers in this country, in the world, is not being forthright with efficacy, then this is something that needs to come forward.
And where does the government get their data? The government gets their data from the people who make the drugs or the vaccines.
Question something doesn't mean you're opposed to it. It means you want more evidence to support the position. There's enough evidence to support a questioning, inquisitive mind asking the questions, and there doesn't seem to be anybody listening. Whether it's vaccines, GMO, people have a right to look at the evidence, and the evidence right now is not really clear as to what the answers are. Where there's smoke, there's fire. There's enough smoke in all of these things that we're talking about today to be able to say, wait a minute, let's stop and reassess and re-examine.
So you see the floor is kind of going up and down, not looking into the camera anymore.
Around Flora's 5th birthday, she received a battery of shots. Thereafter, I told Gail she's regressing. And Gail said,
oh, I can't hear this.
But did you, when you said that, were you making the connection that she was regressing after she had received the shots?
not at the time, no. I didn't make the
But
connection.
it was pretty temporally related?
It took place immediately after the shot.
Immediately after the shots?
Yes.
It's true. She drifted farther and farther away from us that next day.
Yes.
You want pomegranates? So let's get some pomegranates. This is really healthy choices, guys. Fruits and vegetables.
I explain it like this. I make my hands into a triangle, and I say at the top of the triangle you have the government. And for lots of different historical reasons, the government subsidizes what I call big food over here in this corner of the triangle. The people who engineer, research, develop, and market these foods, generally in packages to you. That's big food. Those foods make us sick. Over here in this part of the triangle, you have what I call big pharma, only too happy to take you when you're sick and give you pills and surgeries, because that's what they do. And then big pharma pays back to the government what? Big taxes. And now they have big money to put back to big food. What's in the middle of the triangle? You. Unless you do something to extricate yourself out of the triangle and you say, I'm not going to eat that food.
They don't have to eat the industrialized food that makes them sick, that makes them buy the pharmaceutical drugs. They can take control of their own health. You don't have to be part of the system. You can opt out.
We're putting Band-Aids on our medical system. We need to go back and take a look at our food supply. Nutrition is the basis of 85–95% of our chronic disease situation. Nancy Swanson is a scientist and a retired physicist from the University of Washington. And what she has actually found is the scariest thing that I've seen in my entire career. She would look at either the incidence or the prevalence or the deaths. For instance, diabetes. The incidence prior to 1996, which is right around here, the curve is fairly flat. But as soon as the GMO crops were started to be planted, the incidence of diabetes just took off.
Yeah.
And this is what happens with all these other diseases. She's looked at obesity, diabetes, neurological diseases such as autism, Alzheimer's, senile dementia, Parkinsonism, rheumatoid arthritis, the inflammatory bowel diseases, Crohn's disease, and then a variety of cancers. So here you look at autism. Here we have this problem with these younger people. We don't have a lot of explanation behind it. But again, the graph is flat and then takes off.
It really does.
It doesn't prove that the GMO crops are causing this, but the correlation is so high, you've got to wonder what else is going on.
It's an industry with think tanks. It's an industry with government support.
How much money do we make by selling vaccines and implementing them to the entire world's population, starting at 1 day of age, and giving flu vaccines to 6-month-old babies for every year for their entire life? How much money is to be made on that? Significant amounts of money.
What is the science or logic behind the flu vaccine?
The influenza virus is an RNA virus, and it's a very unstable virus, which is why we have to every year go and create a new vaccine. If you don't have an exact match in your immune system from that vaccine, then you can't say that that vaccine actually helped you.
The Cochrane collaboration 3 separate times has looked at the flu shot, whether we're talking about babies and infants, children, middle-aged adults, or senior citizens. In all of those populations, the flu shot is no more effective of keeping you from getting the flu than as if I gave you a shot of sterile water. So why would anybody want to inject something into their system that has ingredients of viruses that have been attenuated or weakened, that has mercury? The multi-dose flu shots still have mercury in them. Why would you inject something into your little infant that could possibly harm them in exchange for avoiding something as uncomplicated in most cases as the influenza that's going to come and go in a week?
We need to bring up questions. We need to have science and data be the focus and get the money people out of the conversation.
Thank you for watching Bot. For me, this was one of the most important films I've ever been involved with. I hope it was an important film for you. The only way this film is going to get out there is if people like you and I share the film, and we're going to ask you to do that on your social media. The reason that's important is this is a conversation that if we don't have it, it's being filled by people that are being paid to fill the conversation. We need to make sure that there's an open space to have a dialogue, and that's the purpose of having this film out there and seen by as many people as possible. Be sure and register at our website, botmovie.com. We have lots of additional resources that we'll be sending out to you over the next few months. Share the film, and by all means, feel free to buy as many DVDs as you want. Thank you for watching. Thank you for taking the time.